Have you noticed the wealthy never seem to be trying? While we try our hardest to become our best selves, they make the effort look almost humiliating. Old money has always known this. Trying is the tell. Today, we're doing a full-class analysis of why effort itself is treated as a status signal, using the Age of Innocence to expose why trying looks poor. Welcome to Lady Susanna. Join me for tea as we decode the secret language of class, money, taste, and status in the films you love, a language most people never notice but everyone feels. Here we turn that hidden code into practical strategies you can actually use to refine your taste, sharpen your social fluency, and deepen your sense of self. This autumn, we're dedicating an entire series to the Age of Innocence, decoding this film room by room, character by character, until every gesture, every gown, every wasted hour has a name. Because the first thing this film wants you to notice is how hard these people work at looking like they never work at all. With the opening scene at the opera, where we first meet Ellen, May, and the entire social ecosystem of old New York, notice something. No one in the opera box is actually watching the opera. They're watching each other watch each other. The opera isn't entertainment here. It's a stage for what I call social wealth, the practice of spending hours of your life on something with zero practical output, purely to prove you have hours to spare. This is what's called conspicuous leisure, filling your calendar with sport, art, and rituals. Not because you need it, but because only someone enormously secure can afford to waste an entire evening this elegantly. The opera box is a flex disguised as culture, and that same logic doesn't stop at the opera. Take May's archery. She wins the Newport archery competition and is handed a silver arrow pin for it. That's a genuinely difficult, disciplined skill. Hours of practice, real precision, real mastery, and it's aimed at nothing. No food gets hunted, no threats gets neutralized. The entire point of May being excellent at archery is that her excellence has no application whatsoever, which is exactly what makes it valuable. It proves the Reelan has enough money that their daughter's time can be spent perfecting a skill with zero practical output. This is conspicuous leisure wearing a different costume. The opera box proves you can afford to waste an evening. May's archery proves you can afford to waste years. Think about what it actually takes to become that good at something so ornamental. Countless hours of lessons, practice, and discipline, all funneled into a skill with no purpose beyond the moment it is displayed and applauded. That's not an accident of taste. It's the same performance as the opera box, just moved from a velvet seat to an archery lawn. And once you see it this way, May herself starts to look like a walking demonstration. Her competence isn't for her, it's for the room. Every hour she spent perfecting her aim was an hour spent proving something to people who were never going to ask her to actually use it. That's the real trick of conspicuous leisure. It doesn't just waste an evening at a time. It recruits an entire life, hobby by hobby, skill by skill, until the person herself becomes the proof of how much can be spent on nothing at all. Another concept I want to introduce in this episode is vicarious leisure. The idea that the truly wealthy don't just enjoy leisure themselves. They display their status by making other people's time and labor useless too. Take the Vanderlyens' dinner. The narrator calls it no light matter, and dinner there with a visiting duke? Almost a religious solemnity. This is a family that treats a meal like a liturgy. The food itself is the tell. Whole baked fish presented under caviar and crayfish, cold oysters and sorbets shaped like flowers, gelatinous desserts made almost entirely from water and sugar rather than anything nourishing. None of it is meant to fill anyone up. It's served chilled, delicate, and decorative. Food designed to be looked at with the same detached appreciation you'd give a still life painting. Not food designed to be eaten by hungry people. But look past the plates, and this is where vicarious leisure really shows itself. A meal like this doesn't run itself. It takes a small army of servants, hours of preparation, executing a multi-course choreography that could easily be simplified into a single warm party meal. But simplification isn't the goal. The elaborate service is the goal. A household this wealthy doesn't just want its guests fed. It wants an audience to witness that the Vanderlions can afford to burn enormous amount of other people's time and skill on a performance that exists on exactly one night. And crucially, this particular dinner does double duty as a social weapon. By seating Ellen at their table, despite her scandal, the Vanderlydens aren't just feeding her. They're using their command over ceremony itself to dictate to the entire room that she is to be tolerated. The theatrical wastefulness of the meal and the theatrical display of social power are the same performance. And that same performance doesn't stop at the dinner table. Imagine what an entire house can do. Remember the ballroom at the Beaufort house, a room where Toad sits closed 364 days in the year and comes alive for exactly one glittering night. That detail is everything. A ballroom that exists purely for the display of a single evening's excess is the purest form of what I call spectacle architecture. Rooms built not to be lived in, but to be worshipped in. This is the same logic as the yacht that never sails anywhere, the summer house occupied 6 weeks in the year, the vacation home that functions purely as a trophy. The value isn't in use. The value is in the capacity to waste space, waste time, and waste money, beautifully, publicly, and without apology. A room you use every day has to work for you. A room you use once a year only has to impress, which means its entire purpose is performance rather than function. That's the real trick of spectacle architecture. It teaches you that beauty and utility are opposites, that the moment something becomes genuinely beautiful, it should be sealed off from daily life entirely, reserved for the rare night it can be properly worshipped, then locked away again until it is needed to perform status once more. Every episode on this channel eventually circles back to the outsider who sees the system for what it is. And in this film, that outsider is Ellen Olenska. She's technically inside the class by birth, but she spent time in Europe, absorbed different values, and now carries what I call in previous episodes, aesthetic distance. She stepped back far enough from the performance that she can finally see it clearly and say out loud what everyone else has been trained not to notice. Here's the twist. Ellen isn't just questioning the morality of old New York. She's questioning the whole point of showing off. She doesn't fill her calendar to prove she's idle. Her home doesn't look staged for status. And that's precisely why New York can't process her. She's using her resources for comfort and self-expression instead of using them as a public scoreboard. Think about what that means in a world built entirely on visible waste. Everyone around Ellen is performing wealth. The opera box no one watches. The archery trophy aimed at nothing. The unused ballrooms. Ellen just lives. Her rooms are soft. Her choices seem to answer only to her own taste, not to an audience. In a culture where every hour and every object is supposed to be visibly wasted as proof of status, someone who simply enjoys her life without performing that waste doesn't read as free. She reads as dangerous. That's the real threat Ellen poses to old New York. She's not attacking their money or their manners directly. She's exposing the fact that their entire system depends on display, not on genuine enjoyment. If comfort and self-expression are enough, then all that theatrical wastefulness everyone else has built their identity around suddenly looks unnecessary, even a little absurd. Ellen isn't just a side character who happens to live differently. She's the key that unlocks everything we've been looking at today, because every piece we've walked through is really one argument. Wearing different costumes, the opera box no one watches, the archery skill aimed at nothing, a dinner made of food no one is meant to actually eat, a ballroom that stays locked 364 days a year. All of it is the same sentence sentence repeated in a dozen different ways. I have so much, I don't even need to use it. That's the real currency of old New York. And it's not money. Money is just the entry fee. The actual currency is the visible capacity to waste. Every institution in this world, from the opera box to the 6-course dinner, exists to answer one question over and over. Can you afford to do nothing beautifully in public? And the people who answer yes most convincingly are the people who rise to the top of the hierarchy, not the ones who are simply the richest. Which brings us back to Ellen, because she's the proof of everything we've just laid out. She's not poor, she's not scandalous because she lacks taste, money, or breeding. She has all three. What she lacks is the willingness to perform waste as a language. Her apartment is arranged for living in, not for being admired in. And in a system where every object and every hour is supposed to be a silent advertisement for how little you need to try, someone who simply enjoys her life without narrating that enjoyment to an audience isn't just unusual, she's a structural threat. She's living proof that the entire performance was optional all along. And that's the one thing old New York can never forgive. If this made you rethink something you felt but never had words for, subscribe and turn on notifications. That's exactly what I'm here to do. Give language to the hidden codes of class, taste, and status you've been sensing all along. And if you want to keep exploring how those codes shape the roles we get cast in and the lives we build, click the video on the screen and join me for the next conversation.